Chapter 22 異体同心December 1979 Well, lime green robes still make Regulus nauseous, but he's hopeful now. It makes all the difference when the healers walk into the room. Effie's hands are red from how hard she's been wringing them together. It's entirely possible Monty has walked a trench in the carpet, and it's an absolute miracle Sirius isn't bouncing off the walls. The nervous energy in the room is living, breathing thing. Regulus is in a wheelchair. He feels slight prickles and an occasional buzzing sensation in his legs now, but he's still not strong enough to walk. According to Sari, his muscles have atrophied. He never thought he'd see the Finnish healer again, but here they are. It's Sari who speaks first. They are receding. Behind Regulus, hands curls on the handles of his wheelchair, James exhales. Are you sure? Yes, another healer says, nodding. They all look shocked, but also a bit awed. It's not every day one gets to witness a medical miracle, Regulus supposes. The vines and flowers are retreating. Some linger, but even in the 2 hours between tests, they shrunk in size. We've contacted healer Nakamura to inform her. We feel only she can assess whether the curse has really broken or not, but everything indicates that you are recovering. Is there permanent damage to his organs? Sirius asks. No. We can heal any tears in muscles and splinters in bones, Sari confirms cheerfully. As soon as the invasive plants disappear, we can fix anything they leave behind. Of course, this means Regulus still needs to take care so he doesn't injure himself. She turns her eyes on him, kind and relieved. Your recovery won't be immediate, but we are putting together a care plan to help you. Effie breaks first. She makes a sound like a shriek, covering her mouth with a hand, but it's futile. Her sobs can be heard all over St. Mungo's. She's saying something in Spanish over and over again that Regulus doesn't understand, but Monty puts his arms around her and mutters, Me too. They are happy tears, James explains, putting a careful hand on Regulus's shoulder. She's relieved and thanking every single deity she's ever heard of for saving you. Regulus glances at Effie, and she meets his eye. Then she's almost shoving her husband aside in her haste to get to Regulus, crouching by him to take his hand in hers. I'm so glad you're going to be okay. Me too, Regulus says, and he leans forward to hug her, his arms wrapped tight around her narrow shoulders. Naturally, this prompts another bout of wailing and sobbing. This time, however, Regulus understands. He shares in her relief. Before he knows it, Monty is there, and Sirius, Remus, and James too. They are all awkwardly doing a group hug around his chair, laughing and crying at intervals. Even Remus, who's normally too aloof for these displays, is a little teary-eyed. The healers wait patiently until everyone is composed before providing instructions for Regulus's recovery plan. His ribs and lungs took the brunt of the damage, so the healers tell him to be careful with upper body movements. They also provide him with a diet plan to help him regain his weight and strength. Once the vines have cleared, they will do a procedure to heal his damaged organs. According to Sari's estimates, it will be sometime after Christmas. He'll be stuck taking daily potions for weeks to keep his body functioning while his insides are still broken. It won't be a quick road, but it's still a road to somewhere rather than a grave. We'll send you word when healer Nakamura arrives, Sari tells them. She ushers them out of the room with a gentle smile. In the meantime, remember to take your potions, eat well, and rest so your body can heal. If there are any sudden changes, for better or worse, please come back immediately. Thank you, Effie says, taking Sari's hands in hers. It seems she's hell-bent on blessing every single person who ever had anything to do with Regulus's care. Thank you so much for saving my son. We didn't do anything, ma'am, Sari tells her good-naturedly. I'm extremely happy he's getting better, but I can't take any credit. This was a miracle Regulus performed all on his own. By the time they get back to Potter Manor, even Effie is too tired to prepare food. Monty calls the Muggle Indian restaurant nearby and orders a feast that would feed an entire army. Regulus sits in his wheelchair, waving his wand around to help set the table while James unpacks the food. Sirius will be back in a minute with Remus. They went to the bakery to get cake. Even Barty, Evan, and Pandora were invited to dinner. Effie and Monty are busy in the living room, making sure the Flu network is connected to ensure everyone arrives without hiccups. Reg? James whispers, glancing towards the door. Are you sure? We can wait longer if you want. I'm sure, Regulus replies. He bites his lip, looks away, unless James? Somehow, despite being in the middle of unpacking curry not a moment ago, James is now on Regulus. Hands on sides of his chair, nose touching Regulus's, eyes burning. You can't do that and expect me not to react. Do what? Regulus asks, bewildered though not at all upset. Bite your lip. James kisses Regulus through his startled chuckle. He swallows the soft sound and makes one of his own against his lips before deepening the kiss. It's been a week since James snuck into his room, dripping wet and frantic, to confess his feelings, and Regulus still can't believe his luck. They do this now, even if they haven't told their family yet. There were other things on their mind, like the mystery of the disintegrating petals and the sudden onset of energy Regulus felt. They agreed it was more important to prioritize his health, but now that the tests are done and they know Regulus is getting better, well, Regulus threads his fingers through James's hair, pulling him in. Their tongues meet, the soft touch electric. James always tastes sweets, and it thrills Regulus that this is an intimate detail he knows now. Somewhere in the distance, a door opens and closes. Sirius's voice announcing he has the cake breaks through their moment. James pulls away, and for one brief, selfish moment, Regulus wants to strangle his brother for his awful timing. We're telling them then, James says, pressing his forehead against Regulus. If nothing else, so that we don't have to stop just because we hear noise somewhere in the house. They smile at each other. Reg? Yes. Regulus puts a finger against James's mouth, silencing him. Don't say it, he pleads. Not yet. Even though Jace told him that first night, Regulus has asked that he doesn't repeat it. 3 words, 8 letters, all he has ever wanted to hear James say. But Regulus has too much fear to be in a place where he can be honest and say it back. First of all, he isn't 100% certain it's real. James likes him, he knows that. He's sure of that much. It's in the way James kisses him and the way his voice goes soft when they talk late at night. But how much of this intensity is fueled by leftover desperation and panic? Would James ever have said anything if Regulus wasn't dying? A part of Regulus isn't sure James will want him when he's healthy, and he needs to protect his own heart. He needs to be positive that when James says those words, they are from his soul, that they are true. And then there is the issue of the curse itself. This new development between them isn't the only thing Regulus hasn't come clean to his family about. He hasn't told anyone about the true nature of Hanahaki either. He's waiting for Hinano before he does because he can't risk it. The way Regulus sees it, James's feelings for him have halted the curse's progress. More than that, the curse is retreating. But is it broken? Or is it still in his blood? These are the answers he needs before he says anything, because if the curse is simply lying dormant, he will never tell the truth. He wants James to choose to be with him because it's what he wants, and not because he's afraid Regulus will get sick again. For their relationship to work, James needs to know and feel like he can walk away from it any time. James's eyes flutter closed for a moment. Hurt and rejection flit across his face before he wipes his expression clean and plasters on a smile. "All right," he says. "Whatever you want, Reg." "We'll tell them over dinner," Regulus whispers, running his thumb over James's cheek. "I don't think we should rush this, James. We don't want to break it." "I'm sure you are right." James sounds much more like himself. There's no longer hurt in his eyes. Instead, it's a humorous glint. "But you know, I've never met moderation. Intense is my middle name." "I thought your middle name was Fleemont," Regulus deadpans. James laughs, and it's the most beautiful sound Regulus has ever heard in his life. "I love you," he thinks, and he prays he gets to say it aloud soon. Regulus isn't sure what response he expected, but it sure wasn't this. It's James who starts the process. No, we have something we wanted to tell everyone." He sits next to Regulus, who poked at his plate of food. He's too nervous to eat any of it. His stomach is in knots, and his brother's stare bores into the side of his head. Even though James told Regulus about his conversation with Sirius, they both agreed, not yet. But Sirius isn't an idiot. His eyes narrows to slit, flicking back and forth between Regulus and James as the latter continues on. "It's a recent development," James says, setting his knife and fork on the table. He fiddles with them for a moment before laying his palms flat. "But there have been a lot of those lately, so we thought we'd give everything in time." "This sounds like an acceptance speech," Barty mumbles around a mouthful of curry. He grunts when Evan smacks his arm. "I'm just saying." Effie looks mildly concerned, but there's a smug expression on Monty's face. Actually, hold on." James turns and leans in close to Regulus, panic flitting across his features. "We didn't actually discuss what we are," he mumbles under his breath. "We just sort of, well, you know." Heat explodes across Regulus' cheeks, down his neck, all over his body. Sirius's brows shoot clear to his hairline. Remus looks mildly amused at the deafening silence around the table. Everyone waits for James to say something to clear up what the hell is going on. It's Regulus who finally reaches for James's hand, where it rests flat on the table. He could laugh at the feel of it. A bit clammy, a little shaky, but he doesn't. Instead, he says in a firm tone, "We're together." James squeezes his hand and loses a breath. "I'm realizing now I could have just said that. Didn't have to complicate it." There's a bit during which Regulus starts to panic. Will they be angry? Vehemently disagree? Will Effie and Monty tell him to get out? Will Sirius disapprove despite his initial encouragement? Regulus is about to open his mouth again to try and sort out the silence when there's a sudden burst of voices and a flurry of movement. "Oi, 10 galleons, please." "Absolutely not. I bet 5. It was Barty who bet 10. "No, it was you. Monty, how much did you bet?" "Only 2. Not much of better." "Oh, that's not true. I've been married to you long enough to know you bet at least 20. Remus, cough it up. Bloody ridiculous. James and Regulus sit in stunned silence while their friends and family pass around gold galleons, some snickering with glee while others mumble their irritation. It isn't until the table settles, all of the coins exchanged, that someone explains. We knew all along, Sirius says, a soft smile on his face. He has the most galleons, all of them stacked in a pile. I was betting on you both the whole time. Hey, so was I, Barty pipes up, pocketing his own small pile of gold coins. I knew the night we went to trivia. Both of them were goners and I had no idea. It was like watching a broom crash in slow motion. Terrible, heartbreaking, but you just couldn't look away. Evan snorts and picks up his fork, content to return to his food again. Might be too soon for broom crush jokes, B. There's a bubble of laughter in Regulus's throat. He lets it rise to the surface, even though he sounds hysterical. You're all fine with this? He asks, a little bewildered. He looks to his brother, searching for any sign Sirius disapproves. Then Effie, then Monty, both of whom are smiling. Effie reaches across the table to take Regulus's free hand in hers, squeezing gently. She meets his eyes, then James's, before saying, I can promise you there isn't a person at this table who wasn't rooting for you to figure yourself out. Now, eat your curry. Later that night, after the rest of the Potter household has gone to bed, James tiptoes in Regulus's room and shuts the door with a soft click. Despite the unanimous support for their new relationship, if that's what it is, because Regulus realizes at dinner that they really haven't discussed it, Monty pointed a finger at James and said, No more sleepovers in Regulus's bedroom. Not until he's better. And James flushed clear to the tips of his ears, mumbling, Right, got it. But James is here anywhere. He slips under the duvet and turns his head to look at Regulus, a soft smile blooming slowly. Hi, he whispers, bottom lip pulled between his teeth. How are you feeling? Regulus shifts to lie on his side. Please, he can do this now without discomfort. Every day is a little better, even as his body struggles to recuperate after the loss of so much strength. The healers advise another week or two before the vines are gone. Then muscle strengthening will be their number one priority to get him back on his feet. But more than anything, he dreams of his broom. He's kept it to himself for the most part, though James knows. In the quiet of Regulus's bedroom, under the cover of darkness and soft moonlight, he tells James lots of things. Not 3 words, 8 letter-shaped things, but secrets nonetheless. I'm a little nervous, Regulus admits, about what Hinano will say. What if it comes back, James? What if this is just a reprieve for a little while? James shakes his head. I don't think so, Reg. You heard the healers today. You are getting better, not worse. I know. I'm just nervous. Regulus takes a deep breath. It's something he does often now, though each time it's done with a hint of anxiety. He waits for sharp pain in his lungs, the irritation of vines around his ribs. But it doesn't come. He breathes normally. What about you? You have another game next week. Last of the season before holidays too. James turns to look up at the ceiling and blows air past his lips. I will admit, I might be rusty. You should have gone to practice more. Maybe. But Reg, James says, suddenly urgent. He flops onto his side, the whole bed squeaking with the movement. You gotta understand me when I tell you that there was this really cute guy who I couldn't stop thinking about. How am I supposed to spend hours at practice when all I can focus on is him? Regulus's cheeks redden, but he plays along. Oh? I doubt he's worth your Quidditch career. Oh yes, He is. You haven't met him yet, but that's all right. I'll describe him to you. James's grin is pure mischief, eyes alight behind his glasses. He's gorgeous. I know I said cute, but I feel like that was really underselling him. He's got different colored eyes, which is the most stunning thing I've ever seen. But it's also kinda sucks because how am I supposed to look at both at the same time? No clue. Same here. So I feel like I'm constantly flicking my eyes back and forth. I probably look crazy to him, but it's green and gray and green and gray, and I can't get enough of either one. Regulus pulls the duvet up to cover the lower half of his face. He's about to break, the grin uncontainable the longer James goes on. Anyway, he's also got great hair. Better than mine, which is hard to achieve. Shut up, Regulus mumbles under the covers. James pretends not to hear him. Oh, and he's brilliant. Smartest person I know, besides myself. Madeline, your ego is massive. And he's hilarious too. I don't think he knows how funny he is, but that's what makes him funny. He just always gets me laughing. James sobers a little, but the light in his eyes doesn't fade. I'm glad I get to have him for longer than I expected. I'm working up the courage to ask him on a real date, though. Not sure if he's up for that yet, but maybe in a few weeks? A month? Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. Regulus's lip is going to bleed from how hard he bites it to keep from smiling. Maybe you should ask him to come to your game next week. Could be dangerous, that. I might ditch the whole team just to make out with him in the stands. You wouldn't. James's grin widens. I would. Kissing him is my favorite thing to do. If he wasn't cherry red before, Regulus sure is now. It's a small burst of bravery that prompts him to whisper, maybe you can kiss him after the game, once you've won and all that. Do you think he'd let me? It's a bit public. I don't want to make him uncomfortable. We're still figuring this all out, you know? I know. He also knows there are a plethora of unknowns, a whole mountain of unanswered questions. But in this moment, tucked under the covers with James smiling at him, they don't really matter. He'll wonder about them tomorrow, or when Hinano reaches out to meet with him. He'll tuck his I love you away for another time, for when it feels right. For now, he's just a boy staring across a narrow space at the boy who loves him back, saying, I think you should kiss him. I think he'd like that. And laughing when James reaches to pull him in close and does just that. You know, Barty mutters, munching on a Bertie Bott bean. I get it. You get what? Regulus asks, not even bothering to look at him. He's too busy watching James fly and trying not to drool all over himself. It's definitely been too long since Regulus watched James play Quidditch. He'd almost forgotten what it's like. The power James can pack as he explodes across the pitch, quaffle grip tight and close to his body. Right now, he's sprinting towards the goalpost, a determined expression on his face. Regulus's eyes trace the veins popping on the back of his hand as he raises it and takes aim. Regulus has to bite his tongue hard enough to draw blood to stop himself from groaning. That, Barty says, and he sounds a little winded. I get that. Good Merlin Rick, you lucky bastard. Stop drooling over my that's a foul! Regulus jumps to his feet, arms up in the air. He's screaming at the top of his lungs from the stands. Around him, every Magpies supporter does the same. A player from the other team has purposefully crashed into James, destabilizing him enough he nearly falls off his broom. Fortunately, James isn't one of the best Quidditch players of their generation for nothing. He manages to hold on, dangling dangerously from one arm. His captain helps him back up while the rest of the team calls for a penalty. Quidditch doesn't have a lot of rules when it comes to how aggressive players can be, but that move was too much even for a sport as lenient as dangerous as this. Sirius is on the referee, shouting at him to open his eyes and see what's right in front of him. Regulus wishes he could fly out there right now and punch the asshole who cut James off square in the face. He's fuming, livid, shouting improprieties so loud his throat will hurt tomorrow. "Barty," he says, outraged. "A bit of support here?" "Reg," Barty replies, looking at him with a smile stretching ear to ear and flushed cheeks. "Regulus." "What? What?" Regulus glances toward James again, then Sirius and the referee before focusing back on Barty. "Don't tell me you disagree. That was a 'you're standing up,' Barty says. He gestures toward Regulus. Then the very empty wheelchair. "You're on your feet, Reg." A surprised "oh" catches in his chest. The roaring of an angry crowd fades to a low hum. Regulus looks down at his legs, which support him upright for the first time in months. Then at Barty. "I'm standing up." Without warning, Barty jumps up and throws his arms around Regulus. It might look strange. Two people clad in magpie scarves and hats and gloves, celebrating while their team fights the referee for a penalty after a bot fall. But they don't care. Regulus's legs are working again. When he sits on his chair, he taps his quadriceps with his finger to test them. They are weak. There is no way Regulus could lift any more than his own body weight, and even that will be hard. But they are responsive. Holding his breath, he tells his leg to lift the bottom half so it stretches out in front of him. And it does. "Look," he exclaims. "Barty, look!" Barty grins at him so wide it must be hurting his cheeks. The referee awards the Magpies the penalty. James scores. Regulus cheers. It's wonderful. The best day ever. Distantly, Regulus realizes he's had quite a few of these brilliant days recently. It's as though brushing death with the tips of his finger has given him perspective. Life is short, and it can be taken away any moment, and he's got to make the most of it while he can. Over the loudspeakers, the commentator announces the end of the game. The magpie seeker caught the snitch. Regulus flinches, looking away when the team rushes in to hug their seeker and celebrate their victory. In another life, that would have been him. "Let's go see them," Barty says, maneuvering the chair to the platform at the side of the stand. They have VIP passes, so their box is closest to the edge of the fields. It takes them 5 minutes to make into the grass, just on time to watch the players' boots hit the ground. Sirius is first. He reaches them in 2 long strides, broom hanging off his shoulders. "Did you see that foul?" "Did I see it?" "That asshole better not come anywhere near because I will end him," Regulus says savagely. "Also, that trick you did with the bat where you sent the bladder in a spiral was so fucking cool." "Been practicing a lot," he says proudly. "What do you think of our goalie?" She gives herself away by glancing to the side she's going to lunge towards before actually doing it. "Your captain needs to have a word with her. It's a bad habit." Around them, members of the press have started to approach the players for post-match interviews. The losing team is off to the side, but the Magpies are all close by. The captain talks in hurried whispers to someone with a clipboard. An assistant coach, Regulus thinks. "That's what I keep telling her, but she won't listen because I'm not the captain," James whines, landing right behind Sirius. His brother laughs, then steps to the side to make room for James. Barty nudges Regulus's shoulders and says, "Show them." And Regulus, who can't resist a bit of dramatics, pushes himself up to his feet and staggers 3 clumsy steps forward to fall directly against James's chest. Godric's sword! Sirius exclaims, a hand over his mouth and his eyes round as saucers. Reg? James asks, arm flexing around Regulus's waist. You are... Wait a minute, are you... Oh, thank Merlin. And right there in front of entire Magpies teams, the press, and no less than 10,000 spectators, James kisses Regulus full on the mouth. Regulus kisses him back. In the background, Sirius is busy keeping people away with Barty's help. Maybe it's the public, maybe it's a little insane, but their bodies fit together like a key into its lock. Hard planes and sharp bones, soft curves and welcoming arches. Regulus was made to be pressed against James, tongues tangled and breaths mingling. It was the fall, Regulus mutters against his mouth when they finally part to breathe. It was the fall, Regulus mutters against his mouth when they finally part to breathe. I was so angry, I jumped up without thinking. I'll send him a fruit basket, James says solemnly. They laugh together. James's arms tighten around Regulus's waist, helping him stay upright for longer. A cold stamp brushes over his cheek, and Regulus sighs. He's so happy he wouldn't be surprised if he sprouted wings and took flight. Mr. Black? Huh? What's up, Rosie? James asks, glancing over Regulus's shoulder. I just wanted to have a quick word with Mr. Black, if that's all right. The woman with the clipboard says. Regulus turns, still leaning on James for support, and nods. She smiles at him. The team is very glad to hear of your recovery. We understand the reason tryouts didn't go as planned last year. If we had known you were unwell, we would have approached things differently. That is to say, we know now that your performance wasn't an indication of your ability. You've been very sick, and it wouldn't. Oi, Rosie, the captain says, coming up behind her. He's a Broadman. Another chaser. You always talk too much. Regulus? Yes. If you're in good enough shape by July, I'd like you in tryouts again. We should have given you a spot as a reservee in spite of your fall, but you know, regulations and that. I'm sorry, what? Regulus asks, mouth opening and closing like a fish. You what? My little brother is still at Hogwarts. Let me have a look at his memories of Quidditch games. I've watched you do a Wronski feint approximately 7 times. It's not fair we didn't give you a chance because you were sick. That could happen to anyone. But you only allow players to try out once, Regulus reminds him, even though he knows this isn't news to the captain. He just hasn't managed to process this conversation yet. His brain might not even be functioning. It's in your bylaws. I've spoken to management. They agreed that the rule will be waived for you because you didn't exactly fail your tryouts. You had an accident caused by a sudden bout of illness, the captain explains calmly. It had nothing to do with your skill or lack thereof. So, if you recover well enough to try again in the summer, you can. I would like you to, if you are still interested in going pro, and your doctors clear you for it. Regulus can't speak. He can't breathe. He means yes, James answers for him, winking at the captain. If he's well, he'd love to try. Can't wait, the captain says. Then he and Rosie smile at Regulus before going off to address the media waiting for them. Regulus stares at their backs, mind reeling. After months of mourning his lost future, his dead hopes and dreams, the last 5 minutes feel too surreal. Even though he's missed his broom and Quidditch, he never thought he'd have a shot at professional career again. He didn't let himself hope for that. The Vines took so much from him. He didn't dare wish for even a kernel of it back. James, he whispers, turning on his heel. He stumbles a little, but James catches him. What's wrong, love? James searches his face for any sign of pain or discomfort. Are you all right? I need you to pinch me. Sorry, what? Pinch me. This is a dream. They just told me this is a dream. Surely it's not. Regulus shakes his head. I mean it. Pinch me. James smacks, tightening his arm around Regulus's waist. Oh, I can do much better than that. A magpie's win, the chance to resurrect his dreams, and a strong chest under his hands, and now familiar mouth moving with his. Oh yes, this is without a doubt the best day ever.